Christmas is the time for a lot of us to stay inside where it's warm and read a book. I'm going to read Dragon's Merry Christmas by Dave Pilkey. Chapter 1, The Perfect Christmas Tree. One cold morning, Dragon went out to find the perfect Christmas tree. He walked through the crunchy snow. He saw all sorts of trees, big ones, small ones, crooked ones, and straight ones. Finally, he found the most beautiful tree of all. It was not too big or too small. It was not too crooked or too straight. It was just right. Dragon looked down and saw the tree's beautiful brown trunk. It stood firm and strong in the frozen earth. He looked up and saw its beautiful green branches. They waved back and forth in the cold December wind. Dragon could not cut down such a lovely tree. So instead, he came back with colored lights, silver bells, and everything he needed to make his tree even more beautiful. Wow, that looks amazing. That night, Dragon looked out his Christmas tree, shining in the night. It was truly perfect. Chapter 2, The Candy Wreath. One day in December, Dragon had a good idea. "I will make a wreath out of candy," he said. Dragon took some old wire and bent it into shape. Then he taped little pieces of chocolate candy all around it. When Dragon hung his candy wreath on the wall, one of the pieces of chocolate fell off. Dragon picked it up and ate it. It was very good. I love chocolate. Dragon did not want his wreath to look bare, so he promised not to eat any more candy. "I will eat only the pieces that fall off," he said. Dragon bumped his elbow against the wall, and 2 more pieces of candy fell off. "Whoops," he said, gobbling them up. "He's pretty tricky." Dragon sat down in his chair and looked up at his candy wreath. He tried not to think about the smooth, rich, sweet, creamy, dark chocolate candy. Ugh! Dragon could not sit still. He began to drool. He wants that candy. Suddenly, Dragon could not stop himself. He shook the candy wreath back and forth and then jumped up and down on it until every last piece of candy had fallen off. Oh boy. Dragon actually got a tummy ache from eating so much chocolate. "Next year," said Dragon, "I will make my wreath out of pine cones." Yeah, because we don't want to eat pine cones. Chapter 3, Mittens. Dragon was always losing his mittens. No matter how hard he tried, he could never keep track of them. Whenever he needed them most, they were nowhere to be found. Have you ever experienced that? I sure have. So Dragon went out and bought a pair of clip-on mittens. He clipped them to his coat sleeves so he would never lose his mittens again. That's a great idea. What? Then he lost his coat. Oh, that's not good. Chapter 4, Merry Christmas, Dragon. Dragon loved Christmas. I bet it just as much as you do. Every year he saved his money, and every Christmas he bought wonderful presents for himself. Dragon made a list of the things he would buy. 1, lots of food. 2, a new coat. 3, a big birdhouse. Then Dragon wrapped himself up in a warm quilt, because remember he lost his coat, and headed off to the store. When Dragon finished his Christmas shopping, the store clerk loaded everything into a big sack. On his way home, Dragon passed some raccoons singing in the street. The raccoons had no food to eat. They looked very hungry. Dragon reached into his sack and took out his big basket of food. "Merry Christmas," said Dragon. Then he passed an old rhino shoveling her sidewalk. The rhino did not have a coat to wear. She looked very cold. Dragon reached into his sack and took out his new wool overcoat. "Merry Christmas," said Dragon. Finally, Dragon saw two little birds sitting on a branch. The birds did not have a home to live in. They looked very sad. Dragon opened his big sack, took out his birdhouse, and hung it on a branch. "Merry Christmas," said Dragon. When Dragon got home, his big sack was empty. There were no presents left for him, but Dragon did not feel sad. He went upstairs to his quiet room and crawled beneath his soft, warm quilt. And later, as he slept, Dragon dreamed he heard angels singing in the starry night. It's always good to have presents, but to make sure everybody else has some too, especially ones that just can't afford them. Merry Christmas. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. See you next time. Bye.